Hello, Tom's Comedy Club fans, and welcome back to Tom's Comedy Club. We are back today with another edition of the amazing One Comedian 8 Questions. Yes, we're back. Hey, hey, which is always a good sign, which means we're back to more promoting of the wonderful Edinburgh Fringe. Now, my guest this time is a very special guest because her Edinburgh Fringe show is going to be streamed on Next Up, but we'll find more about that later. My guest is also best known as a world-renowned comedian. It's one and only Laura Rose Treen.
Hi, hello.
And so we start off with question number one. We start on the slippery slopes of not knowing if we made it to number 8 because my maths is terrible. Why do I choose to do this? Who knows? So let's find out what question number one is. It is. So, what TV show as a child inspired you to get into comedy?
Oh, wow. All I did as a child was watch television. I watched so much, but the things that really like grabbed me were the young ones. I loved the young ones. I loved Bottom as well. Anything Rick Mel did, I loved. I loved the comic strip presents. I really loved Alexi Sale's stuff, his sketch shows. They're incredible, absolutely fabulous. The Vicar of Dibley and Blackadder, and also my lifelong favourite of The Simpsons. I watched that literally every day for probably, well, I still watch it nearly every other day.
So
So
you were massive. So did sitcoms help you to realise you wanted to do comedy?
massively, I think these like really big, larger than life characters were and watching people play that looked so much fun. Then the amount of energy that people had on stage, especially Rick Mail, like in not on stage in these like scripted situations, I just thought was so fun. I just really wanted life to be like that. So I think I that led me to want to play pretend really.
Yeah. And so out of the ones you mentioned, which one was your all-time favourite?
Um, we'll go with the young ones. I think the young ones because it was so anarchic and stupid, and there was so much in it. And then you've got like the best ensemble. You've got Rick Mail and Adrian Ibbotson. You've also got French and Saunders, and you've got Alexi Sale coming in, and then also the music. Apparently, they could have got a larger budget for the show if they put music in it, because then it would be classed as an entertainment show. So that's why they had a band in every episode, like they had Madness and stuff. So they got more money, which I think is great.
Not only did they have the band madness, they also had actual madness, just generally.
And actual Madness, yeah.
And so we move on to question number 2. Let's see what it is. Let's see what it is. So, what is the main ambition of your comedy career?
Oh, it's interesting. I think I want to just learn as much as I can and push myself. I really like being out of my comfort zone and trying new things. So, like practically, I'd love to write sitcoms and sketch shows for TV. Um, but I also, would love to push myself further than I've thought about and continue doing live stuff and where that can go. Um, yeah, just making up big lies is my is my dream. I love it, and I'm sure there'll be. I'd love to do something in VR because I think that's probably the future, isn't it? I'd love to do comedy in VR, maybe like a VR sitcom or something.
Yeah, because I think they were doing. I think I remember hearing they were doing a series of stand-ups in VR, which
Cool.
seemed a little bit like you'd be too focused on what's happening behind you because you'd be interested to know. So if a sitcom in VR would really work because you would know your limitations, so you can have like a joke, you can have something going on in every corner of the set.
Yeah, it would be really fun.
yeah,
And I love games. I love playing I love like all sorts of games and immersive theatre and stuff. So then I think there's really, really exciting stuff being created soon. And comedy will be a really fun thing to put in that.
yeah. So comedy in VR would really work. So hopefully that's the future rather than AI, because VR comedy sounds more fun than a robot trying to tell jokes that don't make sense.
True.
And so we move on to question number 3. What's it gonna be? There we go. So, how long did it take you to make your Edinburgh Fringe poster?
Oh, my poster. It took, I think, 3 months. I had a photo shoot with my best friend who takes most of my photographs because I'm a bit camera shy. I just find myself a bit awkward when I have to pose seriously, and I had to get quite a serious photograph for the poster. So I used my friend Will Hurl, who's a wonderful person. Uh, we had a photo shoot. I decided that I wanted to look really beautiful, so I got styled in John Lewis for free. Uh, I bought £700 worth of clothes, took them to the photo shoot, used them, and then returned them. All of them. I returned all of them. I didn't keep a single thing
Oh.
because I couldn't afford to. And then we had an idea about the photo. There's this beautiful old vintage photograph of in a fashion magazine of a woman sort of doing a similar thing with the chair that my poster has. And we wanted to kind of recreate that or like have a nod to it because we really liked it.
Yeah.
And then it was back and forth with the designer Mark for a fair bit, which was great. Just trying to get it to look interesting and clean. I think the best posters just like are clean and they stand out and they're like one clear thing.
And do you reckon that having the poster helps when you're out on the street trying to sell your show?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's funny as well because I thought about it for ages. Like, what do I want something really funny? Do I want something like do I want just my face? Do I want something? I knew I wanted something physical because because I do characters. There's a lot of like physicality in that. So I wanted something with my whole body, and I think people it helps for people to see your face around, and just something eye catching is really helpful to get them in the room.
And so we move on to question number 4. Let's see what it is. Is it? Ooh, ooh. So, at what point in your life did you start calling? Did you decide that you're now? You can say to people, "I am a comedian."
It took quite a while, I think. When I went to University of Edinburgh and I did their improv group, which is incredible. They're called the Improverts, and they're on at Bedlam Theatre every night of the Fringe. And when I was a student, I got to perform with them every night of the Fringe for about 3 years, which was amazing. And at that time, I didn't call myself a comedian. I just said that I did improv comedy and I did comedy, was secretly knowing that like my dream is to be a comedian. Um, and now I've been doing stand up probably for uh, almost 2 years, a year and 10 months maybe. And I think it took me maybe a year to start calling maybe like 8 months actually to start calling myself a comedian. After I won Funny Women, then I went first and foremost I'm a comedian, and then everything else. It's hard though, isn't it? Because it's like you don't need to win awards to be a comedian. You don't need to do it every day professionally to be a comedian. I think most people have other jobs alongside, and I think if you do comedy, you're a comedian, definitely.
And do you?
If you're funny, you're a comedian.
Yeah. Do you think it helps getting more gigs saying that you are a comedian to let them know that you are professionally in the industry and saying, "Oh, I just do comedy."
Yeah, I think it helps you with your mindset as well, and it helps how people see you. So I worked as a producer and a journalist for about 5 years, and straight out of uni, and that's kind of how people saw me until I started doing more gigs where I was doing more comedy than I was producing. Um, so I think that definitely helps you, especially with producing because you're in the same world. Um, People see you. I'd get messages quite often from people being like, "Can you produce my comedy podcast?" And I'd have to be like, "No," because I'm trying to prioritize making comedy myself now and not producing. So definitely, the more you do, the more you feel like that's your um, profession, I suppose.
And do you reckon being a producer first helped you to learn more about what goes into the comedy industry to make your stuff a little bit better than it was?
Definitely. I into producing because I love making stuff happen. I didn't produce comedy. I produced uh like kind of factual newsy kind of stuff and a bit of true crime. But I think the skills really helped in comedy because it makes you less precious about your ideas, so you move quite quickly. It helps you with your storytelling, how to get a really clear story. And it also helps you just being a bit more organized. I think understanding the whole process of something and how long something's going to take you to do, it massively has helped me make my Edinburgh show because I know that this is the deadline. These are the if I want it to be as good as I want it to be, I need to do this here, this here, this here. Um, it's still loads of unknowns, but I think it helps you deal with those unknowns.
Yeah. And so we move on to question number 5. Moving on to question number 5. There we go. So when do you think that you can start saying that comedy as a comedian is your full-time job?
I think you can be a professional comedian. Even I think most comedians have worked two jobs. I think in this climate, it's almost impossible not to. Even even like full-time comedians, like your big wigs, are writing books and things to supplement their career and doing presenting work and stuff. So I think that you can call yourself a professional comedian if it's the thing that you are focused on and you love doing, and obviously you need to make money from it to call yourself a professional comedian, but how much money is debatable. I got Arts Council funding, um, a thing called Develop Your Creative Practice. It's really cool. You should look into it. You basically get a lump sum of money to focus on something else in your art form. So
Yeah.
mine was to focus on costume making, which is really fun. And it's obviously really helped the skills that I've learned through that have really helped me for my show. Uh, so I managed to go full-time comedy in January. But I think you could I would have called myself a professional comedian before that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think it needs to be your only income at all because that's impossible.
Yeah. And so do you think that a profession to be a comedian you have to be like what they would call a jack of all trades, would you say? Like you have to be able to be a dab hand at like other areas in the same industry?
Maybe I think it helps, but I think there's also real merit for comics who do one thing and they do it really well. Um, and there's a lot of talk at the moment about whether you need to be able to make um, videos. You need to be able to, do the online stuff as well as doing the um, live stuff. And I think if you love live and you're really good live, then just do live. And if you love doing online, then just do online. But yeah, I don't know. I like doing a bit of everything. My kind of attitude is throw my eggs in like loads of baskets because I work creatively that way. Bit of writing here, a bit of this here. Um, but yeah, I think definitely you can be really good at one thing and just do that for sure.
And so we move on to question number 6. Let's find out what it is. Oh. So everyone has this, whether or not they remember it or not. But what was the first joke you ever told out loud?
The first joke, my gosh. My uncle made famously in my family made up a joke when he was, I think, maybe 6, and his joke was, "What's red and invisible? No tomatoes." And I remember the pressure because my family would be like, "Oh, do you remember no tomatoes?" all growing up, and I remember the pressure being like, "Oh, my uncle made up a joke when he was little, and I had to be funny." So I remember sitting for ages trying to work out a joke. So I came up with one when I must have been about 8, and I said, a Spanish man and an English man were walking along the side of the road. The Spanish man fell over, and the Englishman picked him up. And the Spanish man turned to the Englishman and said, "Gracias," which is such an 8-year old's joke.
And so with having that like sort of like background in like having like family that are also funny, does that like does that motivate you even more to become a comedian?
Yeah, my family are all really funny. I think it uh I think what it does is it really instilled a sense of like, I remember those evenings where we'd all hang out and everyone would be so loud and playful, and I just remember like that filling me with joy. So those were my favorite times, and I think, or on holiday when people we just have such a fun time. I think what that has done is like it's still a real sense of fun in me, and I really having fun. So at the center of all my comedy, I try and have a lot of fun, and the characters I build for myself are kind of vehicles for me to just have fun, and trying the audience have to have fun as well. So I think, yeah, funny surrounding yourself with funny people makes you more full of fun and funny, I think.
And so we move on to question number 7. So, a lot of people have dreams in the comedy industry. Some people would say Lively Polo, some people would say Taskmaster, and some people say to not have to sit in a dustbin at the back of an Asda. And so, what is your dream comedy club to perform in?
Oh, I would love to perform at the Comedy Store. I've not, because that's where all of the like the alternative lot from the 80s performed, like started out. So I'd love to do that, and I haven't done that. Um, I would love I'd love to do like a live TV comedy club, like a live stand-up show.
Yeah,
Not necessarily as live, but maybe recorded as live.
yeah.
Taskmaster would be brilliant. Bit chaotic, I think, is my area. I'd love. Um, I'd love to do like, yeah, like a big theatre as well. I did the Bloomsbury Theatre for Funny Women, and it was so fun to perform to that many people. Um, and yeah, afterwards, Nish Kumar was there, and he said it never like that is the most people you probably will ever perform to. So like that's as scary as it gets, which
Yeah.
was like sort of reassuring.
Because I feel like now that we've come to this stage in comedy where we had the excitement of performing in Wembley and had all the massive arenas, and then we thought actually that's not the greatest place to, because in a massive arena you've got like so many people you can't really hear because the stage is like so far away. So that's why comedy clubs are a better place to perform, because you can hear the reception closer to you.
Yeah, I agree. The I went to see Monty Python maybe 5 years ago, or more than that, maybe 10 years ago, in the O2, and we were just watching the whole thing on the screen, and I was like, well, might as well just be at home watching it on my telly, and then I could put my feet up. Um, Obviously, it was nice to be in like a big space with like all people really excited. Like it felt a bit like a music concert, but it's not the same as music because you've got rhythms and you want to see the facial expressions, you want to see the people.
And so yeah, and that's interesting, that because it's like you are in massive arenas. You are, no matter where you are, you're looking at some screens. So that's why I like the Apollo. It works because it's still a big venue, but it's really not like you don't have to stare at a screen unless the comedian's got something to show on the screen, like a banana, for instance. So there's a joke might have to do with a banana.
Yeah.
You might have to explain what a banana is to someone that's never seen a banana before. And so we move on to question number 8. Let's see what it is. What is it? There we go. This is the key question. The question that was going to be asked no matter what happened to the wheel. So what is your 2023 comedy Edinburgh Fringe show all about? What is the premise?
So my show is called Skin Pigeon, which is just two nonsense words put together. Uh, it is a character comedy show, so I play 12 different characters in the show. Some of them are really short, some of them are like a couple like really small, and others are and those little ones are more cartoony, a bit more Simpsonsy, and then the bigger ones are a bit more realistic and based on people I've met or bits of me or people who I find interesting, and then all absolute nonsense as well from my imagination. But then they go on like own individual journeys. So it's a real mixture of different sorts of characters. I like with my characters to make sure they all sound different and are funny in a different way and change the space in a different way because I really wanted to practice my writing and just try and work out how to write as funny as possible. So that's kind of the point in it. It's really silly, it's stupid, and it's really joyful. And I just want people to have a really good time, really, with it. That's the aim for it. Forget their lives for a moment.
Yeah. And where can people buy tickets or see it? Because you can watch it on Next Up Comedy when it streams, but where can people see it in person at the Fringe itself?
So in person, it's on in the Pleasance Courtyard in the attic at 4:35 p.m. every day, apart from the 14th, which is my one day off. And then it's also being streamed on Next Up, which I think more details will come out about that. I don't know them off by heart, but that's such a nice thing because it means lots of my family can see it who can't come.
And that is also, and the Next Up Comedy is also a fantastic service, so it's well worth getting because you're not only getting the one show, you're getting a whole host of Fringe shows, and the more money Next Up Comedy get, the more venues they can try and worm a camera into to record. And are you excited to have your show streamed live on Next Up, or are you like terrified?
I'm so excited. It feels so fun. It feels like really naughty and anarchic to have a camera in my room. I did a showcase in the Pleasance Theatre, which is a gorgeous theatre in London, and that was streamed on Next Up. And I just kept getting so distracted by the fact that there's a camera there. So I mean, I'm nervous to try and include it, but I think it's just going to be really fun. I'm really excited to how that's going to change the show, especially because I think I'm doing it like about halfway into my run, um, which will be really fun.
And do you think that having Next Up at the Fringe is an advantage for the Fringe itself, or do you reckon it's like a disadvantage because not as many people would go up to watch some of their favourites because they could be streaming on Next Up?
I think there's nothing like the experience of actually watching a show live because these shows are built for live. They're not built for online. A lot of them are now including a lot of elements that can be streamed, which is really, really cool. But I don't think it will ever replace live comedy, but I think what it is it is a really lovely accessible tool so people who can't face barriers to get to the Fringe can then experience it. But I think it wouldn't. I just think it's a brilliant thing for comedy. I don't think it has any negative side effects really.
Yeah, and so you'll be able to see that on. I don't know the details other than when it's on Next Up. But if you go into the Next Up website, they'll probably have a list of all the when they say upcoming live stream, they'll probably have the details on there. Then you can find out the details because as of recording and as of me, which are on this second, the detail of dates are yet to be known. I know it's an August date. I know that for a fact because won't be in the middle or in June because that's been and gone unless we did time travel. Unless we did time travel. And so how do you come up with your characters and how do you prepare for this show?
So a lot of them I've come up with through improvising because that's my background. So I will set up a camera, my phone camera, and I'll maybe put some music on or put like choose a voice and I'll start. I normally I have an idea before I start improvising and then I improvise around that and then I stop recording and I sit and I watch it back and I write down anything that I think is good. It's quite a painful process because there's a lot of bad. And then I'll get back up again and improvise on what I've written down, and then I'll watch that back, and it's just kind of like an endless cycle. Um, and yeah, I know a character is good if it makes me laugh. If I'm doing a character and I don't find anything funny or fun with it, then I ruthlessly scrap it. If I do it, sometimes I get things in front of an audience quite quickly as well at new material nights, um, and yeah, I'm quite ruthless with my material. I throw a lot away.
Yeah. And do you when you watch like other comedians and other comedy characters, do you take like inspiration from them to utilize and like work out how they've done it really well to try and improve what you're doing?
That's interesting. I think I don't like sit and if something's working really well for another comedian, I could think of Christopher Bliss. I absolutely love, and I think Rob Carter's a genius. But I wouldn't steal things that they do because I think that for a character to be really good, it's the same as your stand-up voice. It really has to come from a place from within you. If you're trying to be something too much and you're not going through you, I think it can be a bit. That's when you can suck a bit. But when I watch other really good character comedians like Emma Siddy as well, I think what I see and admire and then think about is their clarity and how they are, especially when I was starting out. I remember Emma Siddy told me to like make more. I have a film noir character, and she told me to make more of my cigarettes. She was like, really, really use your cigarettes. And I was like, that's such a good note because that's about clarity and that's about like really like how to get good points across, how to have not too many ideas. I think that's what I see in other character comedians, and that's what I try and replicate.
And do you have well, this is probably an obvious question, but do you have fun when you're on stage, or do you prefer the writing process beforehand?
I love being on stage. I have so much fun. I feel really scared and nervous, but I've somehow managed to turn that into yeah. I love. I think that's what you do, and the more stage time you have, the more that feeling becomes like a good feeling. Um, I went to clown school, so at the center of what I do is kind of like a clown kind of relationship with the audience, where I just really love being in that unknown space. So for
Yeah.
me, that's really fun. But I really, really love writing as well. I really love the structure thing. I love like generating ideas, and um, I love the bit where it could just be you alone. It's also really nice.
And how do you reckon the comedy industry will move forward with all the? Do you reckon that the comedy industry will embrace like AI and modern technology, or do you reckon that where we are now is like the future of comedy?
I think comedy will keep evolving. I can't imagine comedy being written by AI and it being more good. I feel like it good comedy, I think, is always really real and anarchic. And I don't know if a formula can be anarchic. Like even you see with like American sitcoms that are some of them are made like properly just to churn out series after series. And even there, that for me, that lacks some of the like that factory comedy lacks some of the joy and the anarchism stuff that other sitcoms have or other comedy has. So I think yeah, a an algorithm. I don't know if that can capture human like all of that human stuff that I think a good comedy has to have.
And do you reckon that when a stand-up comedian uploads their full show on YouTube, do you reckon that benefits them, or do you reckon it harms like the comedy industry in itself?
I don't think it harms the comedy industry, but I don't know how often I watch it. But I think I don't know. On one hand, it means that people can see you and your profile raises, and also, you know, an element of like accessibility because not everyone's going to get a Netflix special. So trying to taking that into your own control is really cool. But then also, I would say like why aren't you doing it as a podcast? If especially if it's stand up, like if it's just audio only. Um, I think then, and also if it's like character stuff, then why aren't maybe you could do it for YouTube in a more creative way than just filming a live show, possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a balance of money and accessibility, probably.
Yeah. And other than your next comedy live stream, will you be filming any of your other shows that you do post after Edinburgh Fringe to either sell on DVD or to put on to next up?
Yeah, I think I would love to do a similar thing for if any other shows that I make. I do a improvised true crime documentary with some of my comedian friends. And there's definitely going to be a way in which we're going to work, maybe with Next Up, on um, being able to stream it and include the audience and have that interactivity with improv. So I think that'll be really, really fun. And because it's a true crime documentary, there's lots of like actually really cool visual elements we can do. So with a streaming situation, we can definitely really include people. But yeah, that'll be really fun.
And so, coming towards the end of this glorious and amazing interview, this is your time to promote. Like where can people find you? Don't give away your home address, but where can people find you online so that people can get in contact and see your career blossom?
So I'm on all the social medias. I'm on Threads now. But on Instagram, I'm Insta Lawns, INSTALORNS, which makes sense for Instagram. But then Threads just takes the same name. So on Threads, I'm Insta Lawns, which I would have preferred to be Thread Lawns. On Twitter, I'm Lawn Laws because I'm dyslexic. I made a mistake. But if you type in Lorna Rose Treen, I'll come up. And I'm on TikTok as well as Lorna Regional Transport. But TikTok seems to be dying, so Instagram's probably the best place to get me.
And could you please remind everyone what time the show on, whereabouts at the Fringe is the show on?
Skin Pigeon on 4:35 in the courtyard, the Pleasance,
And
every day.
where can people purchase or get the tickets?
You can get your tickets on Edinburgh Fringe website. They've got an app this year. You can get it on the app, or you can get it in person, probably from a box office.
And it will be streaming on Next Comedy. I'll probably mention something somewhere in the description once I find out what the date is for that. So thank you for letting me interview you.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
And so, with one community 8 questions, what will happen is if you stay tuned for the channel today or tomorrow, it depends on how fast I am at doing things. I'm a one-man band, I'm a one-man army. So let's see if my fingers are fast enough and my armies are fast enough, and I'm focusing on the task. There might be another one later today. But other than that, thank you guys for watching, and remember, no, I've forgotten